I moved my dad home from a facility due to the high costs of assisted living, along with the situation in the world today.
I firmly believe that keeping Dad in his own home with the love, care, and attention he's received has enhanced his life. At 90 years old, he's still the man I grew up with. He's still my dad, and you can't measure that.
Special thank you to the Home Builders Association of Dayton for their support of this episode.
Earlier this season, we explored clusters throughout East Dayton. Now we're going to take a look at a new development called Oregon East, which builds off of the well-known Oregon District. Oregon East is the brainchild of Bill Wayland and the Wayland Ventures team. The Wheelhouse and the newly renovated Dayton Motor Car building are just the beginning of an even larger vision of what is to come. Let's start with a history lesson where Johnny and I meet with Bill Wayland himself, who's had a vision for this area that started way back in the 1980s.
I want you to meet Jason.
Jason,
Great to meet you, Bill. I want you to meet Bill. We are here at the intersection of McDonough and Bacon Street, which is the centroid intersection of the intergalactic headquarters of Gossiger. And this is the heartbeat of Oregon East, is really fanning out from here.
Gossiger Machinery was established on this site back in the 1930s. As they grew, they assembled more property. When I first saw this building, there was they made cones here or something?
Ice cream, the Consolidated Cone Company.
It always smelled really good, but the building was deteriorating a little bit. But it was a massive, had a massive counterpart right next to it that was exactly the same. And then there were a series of buildings there now where that lot is, and they made up the historic Dayton Motor Car Company. And back in 1980 or 81, I saw those buildings and thought they were very important to Dayton's history, and so I worked and put them on, sponsored them to be on the National Historic Register.
So in high school, I dated a young lady whose grandfather owned all of these when they were still here. They knew I was interested in architecture. He brought me down. I had to have been a junior, senior in high school. Toured me through the whole building, and I was love struck. And I ended up doing this as my senior thesis project.
Well, the kind of building I love for this kind of use, it's a solid concrete building, so it's not combustible at all. It has a lot of windows. The first 2 floors are occupied by Gossiger, and then the remaining 4 floors are available for tenants. When this area was all manufacturing, a series of Dayton Motor Car buildings, and right there, as you look out, there's a ramp that comes down that has the double gate.
Yeah.
Okay, well that double gate, the rail line would come down there, and then it spread into multiple lines that fed all the things that were going on around here. And in this Bainbridge building, there's a piece out there where they'd bring freight cars up beside it and they'd unload, and then there actually is a big door
I can see
there,
that. Yeah.
huge door, and they would bring the train literally inside and unload in that cold storage building. And so you can see it. You can just see how the whole thing operated. And it was all based on the railroad. And so the railroad in the old days is what made this happen. And then the railroad, as the city moves towards having a flight line, it will become the significant uniter as we go down into the future in a different way.
Absolutely.
Before 2017, the Wheelhouse building had no life. It sat alone on the outskirts of the Oregon District.
So this is like a medieval courtyard here. It feels like it, right? It's got the bricks and whatnot. I feel like we're in a medieval area, but we're not. We're at the Wheelhouse.
Right, we're at the Wheelhouse, and this building was built around 1870. This space that we're standing in right now had been covered up. And so over time, as this building changed, this was an original building. You can see the exterior openings there that existed. But over time, all of this was infilled with roofs.
I remember.
And then down this entire area over here, all filled in with roofs. And around this corner, out to where the troll is, there was a building that had been built there, that infill, that created a big, huge complex that totally, in my mind, destroyed the character of the historic building.
Did you find any unique things here when you were doing your rehab? Anything special?
There's a nice old vault. A lot of the buildings from that era in the 1870s go back. There weren't credit cards.
Right.
There weren't the number of banks. And so if they were selling something, they had to have a place to put the money. So these buildings tended to have relatively large vaults. And then they had a big scale back in here because they were measuring and weighing, the things that they were making.
Right. Why Wheelhouse?
We wanted to go back to the theme of the motor cars and the bicycles and the farm tools and all that, and the railroad, because the railroad wheelhouses. And so we just thought it was a good way to tie all those themes together and bring that sense of history back to the community.
Excellent.
The Wayland Ventures team brought the Wheelhouse to life in 3 ways, with the loft apartments, the Troll Pub restaurant, and 3 women-owned businesses. Tay Winston leads the Entrepreneur Connection, providing resources and education to support entrepreneurs. Tori Reynolds will keep you flexible through Speakeasy Yoga. And Mary Baldino owns Connect Esports, Dayton's first esports center for the online gaming community. Now let's head across the street to the old St. Paul's Church, which is full of a ton of history and has a future that is as yet to be determined.
1850 is when they first established a congregation here. Mind-boggling. This school was built in the 50s, but over where this parking lot is, there was a school that was built back in the 1800s, and it existed until World War I. When I first saw the pictures, I was just like, why did they get rid of this building and then end up with this, 1950s, 1960s kind of building? And Bob Miller told me the story that originally the children were all educated in German. This was a German Lutheran church, and World War I came along and the federal government banned the right of a German congregation to teach their main language, German, in the school.
Right.
And so the elders of the church were very upset, and they said, if we can't use the school the way we want to, then we're going to close it. And they closed it and tore down the building.
Yeah.
And so years later, they realized they needed a church school.
So they built
and
one.
so they ended up building one back.
So I think Johnny's out getting a decaf, half calf, Xanax latte somewhere. So he's at Press, which is a fantastic coffee shop.
Absolutely.
In town. Very good coffee, great stuff. And I've walked by this church hundreds of times, and I don't think I've ever been in it. And this is really cool. I have goosebumps now. It's super cool. I love that blue stained glass and these fixtures and everything. It's so cool. And then of course Ben went bananas. We got to hear some great stuff.
I gave a presentation over in the school building years ago, one of the initial presentations to the neighborhood. And
now the school building right next door.
Right next door.
Okay.
And Reverend Bob Miller called me and he said, would you ever be interested in having a church? And I said, absolutely. I said, I think the church is beautiful and the school is a great workable space. And for us to be on both sides of Wayne Avenue would allow us to sort of stitch things together.
Right.
Okay. Consistent lighting, consistent pieces and themes. And so that began about a 5-year process of them discerning what they wanted to do as a declining membership, and did they want to sell and play resource forward, or did they just want to operate as they slowly became insolvent? And I think they made a tremendous decision, and they played in excess of $1 million forward into charities, local charities that they had supported over the years. And I thought it was just, the Reverend Miller is the one who put all that together, shepherded it through the process, and I think it was one of the most successful sort of ways for an urban church that had been in decline to play.
To kind of go out with a bang.
Go out just really in a beautiful way.
Get ready, because now Bill shares with us how all of this fits into a large and exciting vision for developing Oregon East as a connector to nearby neighborhoods like Huffman, St. Anne's Hill, and the Oregon District.
You are one tenacious, impassioned visioneer, and you have the Daytopian vision here. So thanks for everything you've done here today. And I'm just thinking here for a last nugget, could you take us through this horizon here and just tell us what you see?
Absolutely. So as you go from this historic anchor right across from the church, and you look out over this, what had been an urban renewal area, you can see all the way back down to the Maxwell building, a red brick building in the distance that's part of the Gosiger campus. Next door, you have a little sliver of the motor car where we started out, and then the Bainbridge right here. But this expanse of acreage we see being developed as a series of new buildings now that will infill and play against the historic nature of this area and tie Oregon straight down along the railroad tracks to the Maxwell. We're standing on the site of a mixed-use building that will frame Wayne with the church, so there'll be a two-sided street here, and this parking area will go away. At the corner where this metal building is will be a hotel that'll anchor this end of the Oregon District and provide a way for people to stay here and really enjoy this area and its nightlife. As you come back into this area, there'll be a parking garage so that we can replace all this parking that both Oregon and we will need as we build out these additional structures. The site right here where there's a yellow metal building that's going to be torn down in the next few weeks will be a residential site that will then tie back into the residential site that we're going to build out along the railroad that will feed into the park. So as we look forward over the next 10, 15 years, I hope that somebody's going to be able to walk through here and walk all the way out to the Huffman Historic District and really get a sense of the history that ties all of this area of Dayton together.
Damn!
Wow, that's fantastic. That's good stuff.
This has been just awesome. And Ben, you made my week.
Thanks.
Oh,
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Damn!